Namgyakhona, the podcast inspiring entrepreneurs in South Africa. Because if it's going to be, it's up to me.
And we created it ourselves as a team. Like every entrepreneur should have a coach. So if you don't grow as a person, your business is not going to grow.
Thank you so much, Takalani, for joining us today. Such a pleasure and such an honor with the work that you're doing at Ashanti AI, pioneering the field. And I really appreciate as the ECubed team to hear your journey, tell your story as an inspirational and relatable entrepreneur for the conversation today. So welcome very much.
Thanks, Bantu, for having me here. I'm quite excited to share my story. Hopefully it will impact someone. Someone will find it interesting.
I'm sure there'll be many times as well for you to touch base. But where I'd like to maybe start on is entrepreneurship. Why for you entrepreneurship? Why was this journey? Why decide to be an entrepreneur?
So actually it didn't click until recently because so there was a period where I was writing a journal, right? So I started writing a journal and I was like, oh, this would be a nice book. And then I was like, started going back to how did I start this whole thing? And then it clicked that this is me being an entrepreneur now. Obviously there was a lot of things that happened in between, but it started a long time ago. So I grew up in Netherlands, okay, Zone 6, and then I went to Madzhadzhi, and then I went to now it's UJ Academy. And at UJ Academy we used to have market days. I think they call it market days or something. And then I actually realized that each market days from standard 7 or grade 9 until matric, I had a store there. So I used to sell boerewors, right? So this thing, like, like going to sell, and yeah, it started a long time ago. And people take it for granted that when those things happen in those stories, so that it's like an accident, right? But then why entrepreneurship? I think different things. I think only it's a personality thing.
Okay.
I think I like creating things.
Okay.
I'm not outgoing, so that doesn't mean I'm an extrovert or anything like that.
Yes.
I just like creating things, creating like the idea of something from nothing, from a piece of paper to something, seeing it live is something that excites me. Secondly, I think I've been very lucky in terms of my ability as a person. And then thirdly, I think the opportunities did present themselves. Where it was, I can do this as well. And then I think maybe you probably might flip it like, okay, why don't you then go to corporate and do that in corporate? Yeah. I think the personality thing then comes in where the freedom to do things the way you would like it to be done.
Why did you gravitate towards that kind of life?
Good question of that kind of life, right?
Because entrepreneur life is not.
Yeah, it's not as glamorous as everyone would think it is. So one thing I think we need to be clear about: there's no right or wrong way of going about life. Okay, there is wrong. You don't do drugs, guys. So there's no, like, if you go to corporate and do the 9 to 5, what they call a 9 to 5, or you choose to be a corporate guru, that's your route, right? And then you get to you do the entrepreneurial things. But I think what's important is how the characteristics of success. So we then need to then say, what makes you successful in this, or what makes you think you're successful as an entrepreneur? I'm still starting out here. We'll see how this whole thing will pan out. And then it would then say, okay, so these are the characteristics that I think I've learned so far, because I think the journey is still long. So I've taken a different approach, and so one thing that people need to understand, that entrepreneurship and the success of your business is linked to your growth. So if you don't grow as a person, your business is not going to grow. So if you are still on a 3-man shop and you don't develop yourself. And when I say develop yourself, I don't say go read 20 books on data science and I mean like develop yourself even outside of that, right? So how to be a good leader, how to do all of those things, and how to be an effective business person. So that's number one. So I think characteristics of deliberately growing yourself or investing in your own growth. Okay, those small things that I think eventually, and I know it's not eventually, like every entrepreneur should have a coach.
Okay.
Every entrepreneur should have a mentor.
Okay.
Right. And if you look at the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, all of them, Steve Jobs, he lists all the mentors that he used to have and the coaches that he used to have. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, all of them, even Mark Zuckerberg, every person that you see there, and even if you go to corporate, right, your big CEOs, they've got mentors and they've got coaches, because I'm a very technical person, type A, there are skills for you to grow your business and be good with that you can only get from looking from other people. And there are people who've walked this journey before that you need guidance from. I don't care who you are. Like even is it Warren Buffett?
Yeah.
Josh Graham. Yes.
Is his coach.
No, he was his coach because he was the father of investing.
Yes.
So this, I mean, so these people, that's number one. So I've deliberately tried to make sure that I've got enough coaches. And it's not people that you need to pay all the time, right? Even the people in your family. So my mom is my other coach, by the way. And then you've got friends that have gone through the entrepreneurial journey that that are my coaches as well. So that's one.
So you talk to them and share your story and
then they give you tools. And some people are very good at different tools, right? So to me, every problem is in my life or at work is a project. And you not everything is a project in life. You know what I mean? So you don't have like a problem statement, then you're like, okay, this is some things you just need to weigh them out.
Sure.
Being a good manager or being a good leader is a journey, so it can't be a project. You don't have to read five books, then you're a good manager. So that's number one. Number two is discipline, and I've only it actually clicked to me how important discipline was. Just recently, and I did say that I've now started having my day is. I know how my day is gonna go, or my week, because on Sundays I plan my week, but my week. I'm very standard, so I know if between 4 and 5 I'm running, and then there's meditation, and then you've got a free block, then you've got your first meeting, second meeting, this is my free time, this is my lunch, then that becomes a routine, right? Then you don't need to, and then your body gets used to that. So that's the discipline, number two. So I think if you then look at successful people, they're very disciplined individuals, right? And even in your approach of developing products, you need to be disciplined, or projects, right? So you need to make sure you've got the stage one is like make sure your problem statement is done, your solution, your documentation. So the more disciplined you become, the more successful everything. Like things will start flowing. And coming back to this morning, I was running. So I used to run a lot when I was in Cape Town, and then I started running like recently. And in the past 2 to 3 months I've been running, but in the beginning it was tough, right? And it's only now that I realize that it's because I've been consistent that I've become actually better. Like you can actually see the graph of my pace. And then I was like, I force myself every morning to actually run. And then this is where the 1% thing comes in. Where, every day if you're 1% better than yesterday, by the end of the year you'll be like, So those are the principles that I'm trying to instill at the moment.
Because I really liked what you said about saying there isn't a perfect role. Like entrepreneurship or starting your own business is not the only success. You can be entrepreneurial in the corporate space. You can be entrepreneurial in academia. Why is growth important? What does it mean for you? When did you start thinking or in that way? Like when did it click for you that's important for you?
It clicked during lockdown. No, it's been something that I've been aware of, but I think it became very real,
like concrete.
Yeah, because if Takalani is thinking of making sure that Ashanti is multinational,
Mm.
like global,
Mm.
the Takalani that's running a 5-10 man show
Mm.
cannot be a CEO of a multi-global as the same person who's sitting here.
Mm.
Do you understand what I mean? So which means you need to grow yourself, how you work, how you see the world, to be someone who is running a multinational.
Powerful. So that vision, that purpose, and that vision, you have to have that vision.
Yes.
Because you saying there's a vision, there's a difference between that vision and who you are now.
Yes, no, definitely. Like if you get, for example, I can't be CEO of Old Mutual right now.
Mm.
I'm just not equipped.
Yes.
But
you're building an Old Mutual.
It's basic.
Right? There's such a strong connection that you are making between your purpose and achieving your purpose, and these characteristics, and one of them is having a growth mindset. But one area is being inquisitive, which is also a characteristic, and then you go after the knowledge. And then another one is actually seeing or having people support you, and having people coach you, mentor you. Were in high school, what then changed and made you say, okay, this is a gift, and and it makes me teachable, and now converting it into, I must be deliberate about it. Like it was subconscious, and now it sounds like I must be deliberate about it. Do you think that that's something that resonated with you back then, if you said that you must be deliberate about it?
No, so then I wasn't really being deliberate about it, right? But the reason for me being deliberate about it now, there's a specific reason. So I'm part of so then there's a new, I wouldn't call it a trend, but I think what started was software, right? So it's like platform, and then we had like social networks,
okay,
and then software as a service, and now it's communities, right? So that's the new business model, creating communities, right? So you pay to be part of this community, and so I'm part of this community in Joburg of these tech guys, like intense, right? And then I think what then happened is that I've realized that even as a South African black child, I can dream to build a company as big as Facebook, and I think it's possible, right? So that's number one. Number two, it's possible if you then know the tools that you need to put together to get there, and that's the deliberate part. So you see what I mean? So now, if my vision is to make sure that Ashanti is multinational, right? So then I was like, okay, it's a tech company, it's multinational. I can't just be accidentally growing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So they need to be like, what is required for someone to run a very successful multinational leading company? And these are, you need to be reading, you need to be doing this, then we go and then we have milestones. We're like, okay, this is what you're doing. We get to know each other, yourself. I mean, you get to know yourself, your blind spots, and you then get to, how do you become a leader? How do you learn from your Elon Musk, and like how he actually.
And so, do you think when you
studied physics and whatever, but he's taking stuff to the moon? So then, how do you approach? So if I'm an actually a profession, but I'm running a tech and software company, then like, how do I learn to make sure that I'm actually effective as a leader and actually leading a team? So these are you need to be very deliberate about it. It's not something that you stumble upon it and then become a CEO of a big company.
That's powerful that you mentioned. I mean, you mentioned connecting the vision. What are the skills that you think are important to learn in the 21st century? What are those tools that you see helped you and empowered you to work in the 21st century industry?
So when individuals are asked that question, they tend to they want to be specific on the subject, right? Or they want to say, now, teach people to code, teach people, like, do teach people to code, but I think behind coding, behind mathematics, behind English, or any language, there's logic, right? So teaching individual's logic is very important. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the skills I don't know how. It's very difficult for me to then say make sure people code, because then we're like half the schools nobody can. There's computers and all of those things.
Sure.
But I think problem solving skills are vital. So if it's a way in which, you know what I mean, like when you're given a problem, how do you in a disciplined way, how do you get to a solution?
Got it.
Right.
Got it.
For anyone, whether they are strong in mathematics or not, I think people can be taught to think through problems.
And for you, how did that happen for you? What were the reflections for you that gave you that skill?
That skill, so it is actually coding. So that's why people are saying doing coding, because in coding it's very disciplined. Like define your variables, have your functions, have the actual code, and then when you're actually solving a problem, right? Because you're teaching a computer to repeat what you do as a human, then you actually need to think through the process. Like, how do I make this PC calculate this thing 10 times? So you're like, okay, first you take this, put it there. So this is then you're getting in the habit of actually problem solving. So I'm not sure. So if we're then saying, what do we teach our young kids? I was like, problem solving skills. How we do that, it's a very difficult, like it will change with time, because back then it would be mathematics, right? So make sure everyone does maths or science or something. But now people are saying coding. But I just think underlying all of that is problem solving skills.
I'm hearing them connect as well, because you're saying problem solving in an unpredictable world applied with discipline is then what leads to success. And that's an entrepreneurial mindset, because in business, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't even know what's going to happen, sometimes in 3 months' time, you don't know what your client's going to say, and sometimes you don't even know how to solve the problem you're about to solve, but you grow towards it. And I just want to appreciate Takalani for coming by and sharing your nuggets of wisdom and your experience. I think your story of the things that you've picked up on your journey that have turned you now into an entrepreneur that's pioneering in the AI space is definitely going to touch one person, 2 people, 100 people out there. Definitely insights from my side. So thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me. This was quite interesting. That's
Sure.
Stay inspired and be entrepreneurial. Follow us on social media and find us on WhatsApp. Nam ngiyakhona.